In a continuation of their onslaught on our land, the Fulani militia have unbelievably stormed and unleashed terror, bloodshed, and destruction in the following communities just within the span of 2 weeks. What is most surprising is the ability of these militia to successfully continue to test the powers of the military by carrying out their well-orchestrated evil acts of killing, maiming, and burning hundreds of houses for several hours without little or no intervention by the security forces. Since the security personnel find it difficult to engage these heartless murderers when they arrived at the scene of the attack, it left us to wonder whether they are under oath or instruction not to confront and shoot the assailants. A typical example is Matie, Magamia, and Obuya community, which are all only about 3 kilometers away from the military checkpoint in Zango and Kataf. Another surprising thing we want the world to know is that in some of the attacked villages, Hilux vans were sighted with food items and other valuables loaded on these vehicles before other properties and houses are set ablaze. It beats our imagination that with all these happenings, no arrests had been made and none of the Fulani militia had been killed by the military forces. Instead, some of our leaders were arrested and taken to police custody here in Kaduna to produce alleged killers of cows, which goes to show that a cow is worth more than a human life. These leaders, whose ages ranges from 43 to 85, spent 3 months in the hands of police before being taken to court and granted bail after 92 days in detention. Since last year, we have made frantic efforts to meet and discuss with the Hausa and the Fulani community to reach a compromise on how to live in peace with each other, and are still on that course. We have always told the path of peace, not that we are cowards, but because it is what our parents bequeathed to us. By and large, our religion taught us so. In spite of that, we will not fold our hands to be annihilated and our lands taken over. The absolute silence of the government on all these happenings in the Etiab land makes us to begin to wonder whether the Etiab people are still citizens of the state, because we are yet to see any proactive step by the government to end these killings in our soil. Neither has there been any comforting statement in reference to our situation. What a pity. For this reason, we therefore call on the government of Kaduna State to, without fear or favor, come alive to its responsibility to put an end to the desperate and condemnable killings of its citizens. The government should ensure that the perpetrators are fished out and brought to face the wrath of the law. We say enough is enough, looking at the casualties. In all the attacks in the 12 different villages as at today, July 2021, a total of 42 people were killed and 338 houses burned, with 7 people wounded. Several other valuables were not left out, as 8 cars, 13 motorcycles, generators, food and domestic items were either looted or consumed by fire. Our rivers, places of worship, were not spared also, as 7 churches and their pastorium were razed down by fire in various locations. At times, we can submit that the resolve of our desire for peace is under threat by this Fulani militia. We felt that we will be better off if we stay in peace as brothers, as it was the case in the time past. It is a well-known fact world over that all crises are not won at the battlefield, but at round table through discussions that could lead to amicable resolution of the crisis, with the parties determined to bring an end to it. The Commander-in-Chief of the Federal Republic of Nigeria once said that anybody found in possession of a deadly arm be shot at sight. But as I am talking to you, Fulani militia still graze in a Etiab land with AK-47 hounds on their shoulder and shot at any sight of a Kataf man. At one point or the other, the security forces are called and they see them with it, but no arrest made. One begins to wonder whether the command by Mr. President is implementable or not. I want to, at this point, appeal to all of you in this hall to find time and come to Etiab land, go around the villages to see things for yourself. This will also grant you the opportunity to see and verify where the Fulani houses claimed to be burned down, that are up to 400, and in which of this village are they, if any? The Tiab people were defenseless for the whole time the carnage took place, with no protection. There's no any place in all the areas attacked that has a distance of more than 10 to 15 minutes drive from one security checkpoint to the other. It is not only lives and houses that will be destroyed, but crops and places of worship inclusive. Our people are known to be purely peasant farmers, but at this season of famine, have to abandon their farms for fear of being killed. All schools in the area are closed down, hence our children can no longer go to school, therefore creating a humanitarian crisis for all the displaced people in the land, which in turn creates an urgent need for internally displaced persons camps to cater for those that have been left at the mercy of the weather, both in rain and in sunshine, without any roof on their heads, since the renewed persistent attack. This whole thing looks like the Fulani militia wants to grab and occupy our land. The Tiab people are law-abiding citizens that have been loyal to all successive governments to date, and wonder why we should be left alone to carry our cross now. Based on this, we ask that government provide more troops, humanitarian relief materials, and a peaceful atmosphere for all. Else, we will be left with no other option than to protect ourselves using all legal means. This dastardly act, these agents of darkness have been identified by our people as Fulani herdsmen due to the language they speak, and some of them well known by our people in the affected communities. We initially had the belief that the peace effort championed by our paramount ruler will yield the desired result as it was done in good faith. Little did we know that over time, the Fulani militia have seemingly ceased fire just to go and reinforce. Communities that are raised down as I'm talking to you now. And as a result of that, we now have an IDP camp in Samaru, Kataf, that as I'm talking to you have over 5,000 people now being housed there because they are rendered homeless. We are discussing, and that discussion is still ongoing. Maybe it will interest you to know that just on Wednesday this week, the GOC and the Director General of the Nigerian Army, Safe Haven, was in Zango, Kataf local government, particularly at the palace of His Royal Highness. And we were all there with the Hausa representative, with the Fulani representative, and we discussed issues of mutual understanding. And it was resolved at that point that since that day, there will not be any attacks in the land again. And that was the assurance our Fulani brothers and the Hausa brothers gave to us. But I want to tell you, my brother, right that evening, Angwanjaba was attacked. And the same militia again went back to Oboya for the second time to continue what they started and from where they stopped. Settlement. If we are not peace people, for God's sake, my brothers, in the whole of the chiefdoms and the emirates in Kaduna State, it is only in the Tiab chiefdom that we have a representative of the Fulani in the Council of His Royal Highness. It is only in the Tiab chiefdom that we have a representative of the Hausa in the Council of His Royal Highness. It is only in the Tiab chiefdom that we have a single district in the chiefdom that is purely Hausa Fulani district. It is also only in that chiefdom that we have one ward, a political ward, that is just for the Hausa Fulani at any time they produce their councillor. Now, with all this, what else could we have done? Or what, if you go to Makaro, the whole Makaro houses are raised down. But go to the Hausa settlement, just the settlement you pass before you enter Makaro, the Kachachere. That settlement is purely Hausa Fulani people. No single house, as I'm talking to you, was touched. And none of them is there now. They all ran for their lives. In fact, some of them maybe were thinking they knew of the attack. They left that place even before the attack was put on the village. but their houses are still standing. Their properties are still intact. Now, that is to tell you that we are peace-loving people. Of people saying that the houses of Fulani men were razed down. I've never come across that. But what I know since June 11 last year, most of the Fulanis that were resident in the Atiab villages after that crisis left on their own and moved to settle with their Hausa brothers in Zango, Urban. Majority of them are there now. The only few one that now say, look, if I am going to be killed, I will be killed in the Atiab land. Our parents were born here, we grew up here, we are not going anywhere, are the ones that were still remaining with the Atiab villages. As I'm talking to you, most of you know the nature of their building. They are huts. A hut that you live for 1 year and there is nobody in it. Even termites will eat up the pillars and it will go down on its own. So do you now tell that destructions by human beings? Talk of sponsors of any carnage. Our belief and reference point is that government has a responsibility to protect the lives and properties of its citizens. And where those things are not done and a carnage like this prolonged, then it means government is